So hi everyone, thank you for coming. It's actually our first time here in ArabNet. As was mentioned, Ali and I are actually brothers, and we are going to be talking about Corona SDK today. So the format is going to be, we're going to show you a bit of a slide deck about what Corona is, where Corona started, and what it's about. I'm going to show you guys a short video to tell you what is capable with Corona, and then I'm going to pass it over to Ali, where he will go through a coding example, show you how easily and quickly to develop with Corona. Now, just a small note, we're actually new to Corona. We will share with you one of the products that Corona is gonna be launching, and today is actually the first public launch, which is the Corona Cloud, which is the cloud backend service. And it's actually a company that Ali and I started about a year ago, and we were acquired by Corona last December. So today is our first birthday for Corona Cloud, which is our little product that we've been working on for a while. So we'll share with you some information about that in a bit. So just a little bit quickly, while whoever wants to do some coding afterwards with Ali, go ahead and go to coronalabs.com, sign up, log in, and then you'll be able to click on the, I think it's called Try It, where you can download the SDK and use it for free. If you like it, my recommendation, and don't share this outside, if you want to buy it, buy the subscription in about a week or 10 days, because we are going to be changing stuff. Because we are ahead of the US, so we get this information before anybody else. So if you get a chance and you do like Corona SDK, do buy it, because the prices will be changing in about a week to 10 days. So here's just a heads up. Then you can use, Corona SDK doesn't have an IDE, so you can download either TextMate or Notepad++ to code with. And we'll walk through that later. So who's Corona? Corona was founded in 2008 in Palo Alto, California. It's venture funded, so we have VCs on board. It was funded by two guys, or ex-Adobe, ex-Apple. And today, since they acquired us, the company's about 21 people. And the first product was launched in 2009. And as you can see, the Corona Cloud will be in 2013, which is today. So far, Corona is, in our mind, is the number one when it comes to 2D game engines. So Unity 3D handles the 3D stuff, and we focus mainly on 2D stuff. And that's targeting iOS, Android, the Nook, and the Kindle. All the Android-based devices, so we'll handle that for you. Today, for the last 5 months, we've had 1 billion application sessions that are running on the Corona platform. Over 200,000 developers that are actually using our system. By the way, if you have any questions, please stop me, and instead of sort of keeping that to the end. So see, these are some of their customers. EA uses our product. Flare Games uses us. So these are some of the big brands that actually use the Corona SDK. Just briefly, Corona also has the basic version is a Corona SDK, which has an online build. So you download it, you code it, and then you send it to us. As Corona, we have our backend systems which builds the code for you. Or you can go with Corona Enterprise, where you can actually do offline builds and add your own native extensions. And you'll see why this is important. So there are things we abstract, but if you want to add any extra functionality, you can actually add your own native code, but you will need the Corona Enterprise for that one. And this is sort of our little baby. This is the Corona Cloud. It's a REST-based API. So one of the cool things that when we were acquired by Corona, the Corona Cloud system is going to be open to anybody else. So whether you're a Unity developer or you're a native code developer, you can still use the Corona Cloud. And there's a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be giving in for free for starters if you want to have sort of the cloud backend as a service. So what do? We offer like leaderboards, achievements, multi-platform push notification. So if you develop a game that is on iOS and Android and you don't want to manage, if you develop a game and you want us to manage the push notification, we will handle that totally for you. So as a developer, you don't need to worry about it. You can, for example, develop a chess game and say submit move. We will actually discover the opponent's device, and we will handle and use the right push notification. And for that, we support Windows Phone 8 as well. And you also have HTTP built in, so you can actually run an HTTP service. So again, we also have a multiplayer service. So you can actually develop turn-based multiplayer games using our backend system. And one of the cool parts of the Corona Cloud is the embedded analytics. So everything you do, we capture the analytics system for you. You don't have to send us any events. You don't have to install a third-party SDK. Everything is encapsulated in our backend service, and we'll be able to give you all this data for you. So Corona SDK is actually based on you program in a programming language called Lua. Anybody familiar with Lua? No? Okay, some people? Good. So Lua is actually quite a niche but standard programming language when it comes to mobile games. Angry Birds was developed using Lua. World of Warcraft, some of the missions and scripts was actually developed in Lua. It's actually a very concise, very fast programming language, and this is what the programming is in SDK for Corona is based on. And one of the things that Corona prides itself about is the simplicity. So, oh, you can't see it. Is this going to power up? I don't know. Can we start the screen? Okay. Oh, it's warming up? Okay, good. So basically, the screen you will see soon is what it'll take if you're developing in iOS, Objective-C, what it'll take to load up a single image as a background image, all the lines of code in the background, and this is exactly what it takes to load an image in Corona. And this is, again, multi-platform. We will handle all the resolutions, all the different platforms. So just to show you how fast it is. The other thing is we've done internally some testing. I mean, you can do an Angry Bird example in 36 hours, including the sound and 2 complete levels in 36 hours flat, because we have a built-in Box 3D physics engine. 2D. Yeah, Box 2D. Physics engine built in so you can extrapolate and handle all that very quickly for yourself. For the technical people here, this is the brief architecture. So we're not only for games, we also develop apps. So we have our native widgets where you can actually call sliders, buttons, which actually look like an iOS button or an Android button. So we don't simulate it, we don't put images. It will actually look like a native button. And we sort of abstract a lot of the data, whether it's you want to access the camera. So if you want to develop an application where you want to pull the camera, it's the same call whether it's for iOS or Android. We'll actually handle that for you. So I'm trying to skip through this as fast as I can. This is our Twitter. Please follow us and the Facebook. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bore you guys for just a little bit of 5 minutes to watch this video. What I did was I took a sample of some of the games that were developed using Corona, because everybody when thinks about using an SDK, you think it's going to be slow, it's not the high-end game, so on and so forth. So I want to just run this video and see to show you the kind of level of games that we can actually achieve using Corona. Believe it or not, this game was actually developed by one person. He did all the graphics, did all the game programming himself, and he's not even a programmer. So this is one of the cool things about Lua. Even if you're not a programmer, you can actually pick it up pretty quickly. Unfortunately, this video is a little bit long, so just bear with me. But these are the kind of different levels he was able to design. So you can see some of the physics you can create. And Ali, I think in the example he's working on, he's adding some physics bodies so you'll be able to see and mess around with that. So while this is going, I'll let you know that a lot of things are happening in the company. We are going to be releasing new products. So today, with the standard Corona, you can develop and then it will build online, and you can actually purchase well, actually, I'll tell you how it's going to happen next week. So it's going to be for free. We're going to be launching a free SDK, so you'll be able to develop totally free of charge. And then we have a Pro and an Enterprise edition. For the cloud, we will give you a lot of capabilities for free, unlimited user accounts, leaderboards, and achievements. We will not cap you. This game, this actually was launched when we were still Game Minion. It's a multiplayer game, turn-based game. It uses Facebook, so you can actually use Corona or the Corona Cloud to authenticate with Facebook, pull your friends, do direct invites, do challenges, and this is one of the. It's actually a turn-based game. Anybody have questions while this is running? You can. No? I'm doing such a good job. You mean as in the sprites? Yeah, we support full sprite animation. And the other thing is, you'll notice, for example, we actually have a video blog, a video podcast called Corona Geek, which is a weekly podcast that happens, and we pull in developers, we look at budget code builds. There's actually a company in Sweden that dedicates a monthly or a bi-monthly newspaper called Corona Paper.
In the not-so-distant future, humanity
know
suffered
these?
a catastrophic zombie outbreak that wiped out
quite
millions
old,
of
if you ever played the
people.
old
They
Shack game,
enslaved what was left
Shack
of us.
Anybody?
We heard stories of a man that stood
Because
up
this
to
was a
meet
terrible
the
game.
zombies all
Anyway,
by
so this
himself.
company actually now is working with
We know him
Shaquille
as
O'Neal.
the justice bringer.
So everybody knows
Shaq.
who Shaquille is. So they've developed a game for Shaquille O'Neal using Corona, which is almost like a
It's time for
Street
Shaq.
Fighter kind of thing. And again, and they're launching it actually on the Samsung store, on the
You're going
Android
down.
and iOS single build as well.
Where do you think you're going?
I think
Jump
this is being
shot.
translated in Arabic, by the way. I think they're working with somebody, so. They really went out on the trailer here, so. Next one is. Yeah, this is to give you guys a bit of a mixed type of game, so it's not exactly sort of all action. This is more of a you connect the coins and try to build these chain. This is actually done by a US company that's done this. Actually, we support all in-app purchase, so you'll be able to do in-app purchase built in. Another feature that we're going to be rolling out in the cloud is in-app purchase verification. So a lot of the piracy that's happening, like that Russian server that does the proxying for the in-app purchase, one of the services we're going to be providing through the cloud is in-app receipt verification. So if even somebody bypasses, we will actually ourselves will verify with Apple or Google if this person generally made a purchase or not, and then deliver the content. I think there's one more, and then we can do more fun stuff. No, there's one more after this, which is the latest one. But this is another thing, it's sort of a turn-based game. So the idea is that a lot of people, when we go talk to people, they're sort of skeptical about what an engine like this could do. But just to give you an idea, this is different types of games. I think the last one, you guys will be very impressed on the performance. They did a good job. This is about a year-old game.
Tried doing games with destructible terrain, you'll know that it's not straightforward. So that's one thing that is possible with Corona.
This game was featured on the Apple Store, I think, and as well it was a top editor's pick, I think they call it, or staff pick. Oh, here's the song. So this game is called Major Magnet. So just to get an idea of the kind of performance you can achieve, actually, and again, keep in mind that this is running across multiple platforms. You only code once, and then when you build in the simulator, and Ali will share with you the simulator, we'll kick out code for any Android device as well as iOS.
This game actually reached number 3 as top-selling app on the US App Store for a few days. So.
And if there are any more questions for me, I'll pass it on to Ali. Nothing? So, technical guy, BSing guy. So if you have any, I'll handle that for you. So who's developed games or apps in the past? What, you guys develop native or you use an SDK? Native? All of you native?
Android SDK.
Oh, but you're not using any SDK like a game engine or an app? Good, because you guys are gonna love this one. It's really the jump between native and then going into using an SDK like Corona. It's huge.
you guys see that okay? Is that readable for you guys? Oh no, I just want to make sure that you can actually read what I'm typing. Does that look okay? Can you guys read the text? Yeah? Okay. So I'll show you first the actual tool itself. So once you've downloaded the SDK, you'll get this if you're on Mac. You'll just have a folder. So you just install it like any other application. Once you've done that and you launch the simulator, you'll get this dashboard. And so from here you can create new projects. And then that'll sort of give you a sort of boilerplate code that you can continue to build on and that kind of stuff. Also from here you can access other sample apps and that kind of stuff. So if you download the Corona SDK, included with the bundle is a directory with lots and lots of sample applications. So if you look at the sample code, we have sample code for pretty much every single API that we have. So we have, I think, 500 plus APIs to do everything from taking photos to displaying images, sprite sheets, animations, physics, displaying buttons, all that kind of stuff. So they're basically they're sample apps for pretty much everything that you can possibly want to do. So from here, if you create a new project, you can just give it a name. And if you pick blank, it'll just create a folder and some of the minimum required files. So things that manage the configuration settings in terms of the device is going to be deployed on, resolution, aspect ratios, that kind of stuff. If you pick app, it'll basically give you a boilerplate code for an app with 2 tabs and a nav bar. If you pick game, it kind of makes it more of a landscape, and it does some other stuff for you. Ebook and scene, pretty much the same kind of things. So I've already created a project. So basically, I've created a number of files, and I copied in some images. So you can see there's a crate, and there's some grass, and a sprite sheet for tanks. And then I have the main Lua file itself. So any Corona application needs to, at a minimum, have a main.lua, and that's pretty much it. So if you have that, then you can just launch the app and start doing cool stuff with it. Okay, so
he's cheating off my laptop, so he gets wondering.
As you know, live coding is always asking for disaster. So I'll try.
What are you trying to do now?
Okay. Well, what I'm hopefully going to do is just run through some basic features, the kind of stuff that you're likely to encounter if you want to build a game. So hopefully by the end of this, we'll have some kind of idea of how you'd go about building something like Angry Birds, including the physics, loading images, basically reading touch events, and doing that kind of thing. We have about 40 minutes, so hopefully that'll be enough time. Okay. So, like Mohammed showed on the presentation, just to display an image, it's pretty easy. So you can just go. I assume if you've seen Lua before, it's very, very concise. It's kind of a lightweight scripting language, so it takes very little code to do anything. I'm just going to type up some stuff and then I'll explain it. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but that one line of code basically results in my crate being displayed in the top left corner. So it really is as simple as that. So just created image. Display is the sort of the high-level API for anything to do with displaying things on the screen, graphics, that kind of stuff. I've basically said I want a new image, and I've passed in the name of the file, and it basically returns this image. By default, if you don't do anything with an image, it will just be displayed on the highest level of the window. So just calling this basically gets you a crate in the corner. So if we want to add some physics, we just need to require in some physics. and then we'll start it. So by default, we do some sensible things. We sort of apply some basic settings that most people want. You know, physics is down. The gravitational pull will always be down. You can customize everything. You can change it. You can invert gravity. You can make it less strong, or you can make it, you know, very, very heavy. So if I run that, nothing happens. Right now, the crate itself is just a display object. So we haven't told Corona that we want to treat it as an object with weight or mass or anything like that. So in order to make it sort of affected by physics, we just need to add it. And then we need to specify the kind of physics body it is. So you have like a dynamic physics body where it'll move around. You can have a static physics body where it won't be affected by gravity, but other things will bounce off it. So usually boundaries, walls, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to say it's dynamic. And then you specify some attributes related to that physics body. So how dense the object is, how bouncy its surface is, that kind of stuff. It's not often you talk about how bouncy things are.
The physics engine is based on, like we mentioned, the Box 2D engine. So if you're familiar with that, it's very similar, except we've abstracted a lot of these calls, so you can call them straight from as a Corona API.
So basically, you can see now, as soon as I refresh, you'll see the little box just drops off the screen. There's nothing to stop it from continuing forever off my screen. But just by defining it as a physics body, we automatically get this kind of functionality. And you'll note that I didn't really have to define the boundaries of the box. By default, Corona will basically put whatever image you put in a square, and that will be the boundaries of the physics body. So if I put ground underneath it, the image will sit perfectly on it. I don't need to specify it explicitly. So we can go ahead and create some ground. I'm just going to do something new, but then I'll explain it. So I've used something called new group as part of the display APIs. So essentially what this does is it tells Corona that I want to group display objects. So this is useful if you have, say you have a character and he's made out of 10 different images, then you'll basically create the 10 images and put them in one display group called character. And then you can drive that one display group around at once. So you can delete it or shuffle it around or treat it as one object. So I'm just going to create some ground.
If any programmers, you'll notice that we don't, in Lua, there are no semicolons, which throws you off a little bit if you're not used to it. But actually, you could use it, it's just ignored, but it's not necessary.
So I'll just type this up, then I'll explain. Well spotted, thank you. Expect lots of typos and stuff. Okay, so for the ground, I'm going to specify as a static physics body. So obviously, I don't want the ground to go spinning around and fall down towards Earth. Copy this. Okay, so there it is. There's some ground. It's got some grass images. I'll just explain the code quickly. So essentially, I just created a for loop that I've told it to run through 4 times. I created an image called ground, and it's using the grass PNG. And then I basically said for each loop, starting from I equals 0, to place the x and y coordinates. So basically it creates a new grass image, shifts it 320 pixels, and then creates another. So what we end up with is this sort of ground. And because I've specified that it's a static body, it won't fall off the screen to the bottom. And because it's a physics body, and the crate that we have is also a physics body, then they'll hit each other, and you get a slight amount of bounciness. So if you look at the crate, it kind of bounces a little bit at the bottom. You can basically change a lot of stuff. So if I make it bouncier, then you'll see it just bounces bounces off the screen.
You can do easing?
Sorry?
You can do easing?
Well, in this case, easing would imply that I'm explicitly animating it, but I'm not. I'm basically handing it over to the physics engine, and the physics engine is deciding how it should react. So if you want to adjust the way it looks or the way it animates, then by using the physics engine, what you'd have to do is basically change the density of the object or the friction or the bounciness and have the physics engine calculate that kind of stuff. There are easing libraries in Corona. If I want to animate stuff myself without using the physics engine, then you can do that as well. So you can basically animate things back and forth and get them to loop and repeat and stuff like that.
If you have different screen size,
Yep.
you want to put it into white,
Actually, what you can do is you can, there's an API for getting display content width and height. So basically, when you launch your app, you can actually detect the resolution of the screen and then make your stuff relative. So instead of saying X and Y explicitly, I can just say display content width divided by 2. And it will always be in the middle, regardless of the resolution.
Is there percentage unit?
Not necessarily a percentage. Well, you're doing the same thing effectively by putting a fraction. So you could say x is equals display content width divided by 2. And it will always be in the middle, regardless of the resolution. Or you can have divided by 2 minus whatever. So it'll always be slightly to the left, if you see what I mean. Okay. So the crate's there. Right now, it doesn't really react to anything you do. You can click all over the screen, and it doesn't make any difference because we haven't created any event listeners or anything like that. So we can't really interact with the crate. But what we'd like to do is be able to click on it, drag it back, and sort of fling it around the screen. So in order to do that, we have to take advantage of event listeners. So I'm just going to type one up.
And all the documentation, so if you go to the Corona labs.com, there's a documentation section. You'll see all the API documentation. One thing you'll notice is there's a very rich forum. So if you go to the forum section, there are tons of people supporting if you have any question, which is totally free. There are actually 2 engineers that are full-time supporting and manning these forums. So if you have any question, you just post it on there. We have 2 guys that will actually respond and give you code and support you. There's also a code exchange. So there's a lot of people submitting code that you can just basically download and use it straight away.
Let me just type this up quickly, and then I'll kind of explain it.
So while Ali is finishing up, one thing you'll notice that with the new build of Corona SDK, with the cloud launch, you'll actually have a cloud UI, so you can actually launch an interface. If anybody's familiar with OpenFaint, So you know how you have this UI where your player can generate, register and create an account, and then it will show you, for example, the leaderboards or the achievements. Something like that is going to be rolled out in the SDK for Corona. So from the code, you can say, pop out a little login screen so your player can actually put in their name, an email address, and create an account, which we will manage for you. And then from there, you can load up the leaderboards and achievements. They can see their friends. So it's similar to how Game Center works.
Sorry. Might be easier if I just do this.
Don't you love demos? Live demos is the best.
Change where you're adding to the body.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, theoretically. Okay, so you can see it doesn't really bounce very much, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm clicking on the center of it and then dragging in a direction and it'll bounce. So that's not very spectacular, but I can actually edit the scale of the physics to make it a bit more impressive. So basically, I've accelerated the sort of magnitude of the physics engine. So basically, it pulls down more aggressively, and it'll ping off a little bit more aggressively as well, so I can fire it into the air. So let me just go through and explain kind of what I've done. So this function is basically the touch event listener. So I've created just a generic function, and I basically got it to react to the event. So every touch event in Corona has a number of phases. So here I'm listening out for the begin phase. So basically when I click something, that event is kicked off. So as soon as I click it, you'll see this event being fired. So essentially what I've done is I've told it to get the current stage, which is the current window, and then set the focus on the crate itself. And then when I receive the event for ended, which is basically when I've released the touch event, then I'm applying a linear impulse, which is kind of a push. And then I'm looking at where it started and where the actual place is when it released. So basically, once I click it, it'll set it to X start. And then once I release, it'll be the event.x. And I've done the same for the Y. So basically, I'm getting a direction. So I know where I started clicking and where I ended clicking. And then basically centering the motion on the center of the object. If you set the impulse on one of the edges, anywhere above, other than the center, you'll get it spinning around. The final thing to do is basically associate that listener with the crate itself. So here, I'm calling add event listener on the crate. And I'm saying this is the event listener that I want, and this is the event that I want to listen out for. So what you end up getting is a crate that reacts to the ground, and if you click on the middle and then pull it back, it kind of pings it in the air, Angry Bird style. So if you look at the code, essentially that's 27 lines to create the ground, load the images, create the crate itself, apply the physics, and get it to react in a way where you can click on it and ping it around the screen. I think anyone who's done any amount of native coding or anything else, this is kind of insane that you could do this much with only 27 lines of code. Okay. So I guess I can just continue with the. And because the touch events continue to work wherever it is, I can actually catch it and ping it some more. So And essentially, you kind of get that functionality for free, purely by using the Corona physics engine. Okay, some other stuff that maybe typically you'd want to do in a game is to do sprite sheets and run animations. So say if you have like a richly animated character, you want to animate him sweating or him running or whatever it is, you can do that. So I'm just going to create a sprite sheet now.
And if you guys noticed, when the simulator is running, it was in a landscape mode for iPad. Inside the simulator, you can actually set the target. So if I want it to be a Nexus or a Kindle Fire, whatever, you can actually see and actually see how it looks actually on the device. You'll be able to see it from the interface. And we're continuously adding more skins and different devices.
So here I'm defining a new sprite sheet. It uses a different API. It's the top level API is the graphics one. So I've defined a new image sheet. I've passed in the image atlas for green tanks, and I've defined where to find it. And then I basically specified, each cell in the image atlas is 32 by 32, and there's 8 of them. So I can actually show you what this looks like. So this is it. So basically, I'll end up with an image sheet. So in order to animate stuff, I have to take that image sheet, which is basically just the raw form of the images, and then create a sprite sheet based on that. And then once you have it in a sprite sheet format, you can animate it back and forth and do that kind of stuff. Oh, sorry. Is that okay? So essentially, I've defined a new sprite, and you can create different animations, and you can name them. So then from within your app or within your game, you can basically just say, this is the sprite, run animation, falling or jumping or whatever it is, and it just runs that animation. So in order to create a sprite sheet for each animation, you have to specify some attributes or some properties. So I'm basically saying that it starts on the first cell, and the animation will have 8 frames. And then I can pass in a table with the different frames. So this way, if you have like a big image atlas and you want to repeat a lot of the same cells, you can create 100 different animations just by picking a different combination of those things. So for a different situation, if the guy is running to the left, to the right, he stops and then he turns around. You just create a bunch of animations and you can just refer to them by name. And then you can specify how long it takes. This is in milliseconds. So now we have an animation called moving. So I need to specify where I want the sprite to be. So I'm just setting the X and Y coordinates. I'm just going to make it a bit bigger because it's very small. and then to get it to run, you can just call play, barring any typos.
How can you test it on device?
Oh, I can theoretically show you. It's pretty straightforward. From the simulator itself, there's a build command, and then it will basically let you create an APK or an IPA directly. So if you have installed, do you do like iOS development or Android? iOS?
Both.
Both. Okay. So if you're doing iOS development and you have your provisioning profiles configured and all this kind of stuff, you have to have Xcode as well because it actually uses Xcode to finally package the thing. But if you use the build tool, you can specify your provisioning profile and your certificates, and it will actually just result in an IPA that you can then just push onto your device. So I don't have my device configured for this laptop, but I can show you it being built for the Xcode simulator, which will use the IPA anyway. So from there, you can just copy that binary over, and you can run it on device. Okay. I'll just show you the tank. Might be I don't know if you can see, but the little tank treads are animating. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is the build tool. So you go to the menu, and then it'll pop up basically saying, name your app, define the version, whether you want to build for the device or the Xcode simulator. I don't have a device set up, and then you pick your code signing identity. You can also specify whether you want to target only a particular platform and make it a universal binary, because we support that as well. So I'll just build. I don't know. I should have. If I don't have internet access, then it probably won't work. Like Hamid mentioned, if you have the standard tiers, the build process is actually carried out online. It's kind of a necessity of what we do in order to make it super easy for the developers. But that does have the downside of if you don't have internet access, nothing works. Okay, there we go. So there's the animating tank. This is actual Xcode simulator, so you can kind of see it says iOS simulator. So this basically has an IPA. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So if there's anything anyone would like me specifically to demonstrate in terms of functionality, I can do that. Otherwise, what we'd like to do is basically talk a bit more about Corona Cloud. The Corona solution sort of consists of two parts. The Corona SDK, which makes it super easy to do the client side, to build the iOS app or the Android app. The Corona Cloud component makes it very easy to kind of build much richer, much more sophisticated applications or mobile games, which have push notification or multiplayer and that kind of stuff. So, are there any questions or any comments? I can just give you guys a quick tour of the Corona Cloud. Sure.
So this is how to animate. I'm sure I missed something, but
Okay. Shall I walk through it properly?
no. This is how we can animate and all that, but I'm not sure how we can record events. I mean, I didn't understand that bit. If you explained it.
Okay, sure. So
I mean, things like how do you move from one level to another, or how do you gain points, or all these things.
Okay, sure. So I'll explain events in general. Essentially, the way the Corona SDK works is it has some events that it will automatically fire when certain things happen. So one of the built-in ones is touch. So basically, anytime anyone touches the screen, a touch event is fired somewhere. So in order to make our crate react to the touch, we're creating an event listener, which is here. We're adding an event listener.
Yes, but I mean, how do you record points gained or
Okay.
levels? Or
I see.
this is the bit that I want to understand.
Okay. So let me try to understand. I mean, if you want to, say, track data, as in while I'm playing the game, I've gotten 50 points, and you want to store it somewhere and make sure you can retrieve it. Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna jump to the API.
Or that you hit the target. Or
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll show you two separate things. The first thing is let me add some more blocks, and I will hit them with the crate. Okay. Just add them here.
So you're talking about collisions, how we detect collisions and stuff like that, right?
How do you detect it?
Yeah.
How is it recorded and tracked in terms of achievement or
Yeah. So
points or levels?
there are two parts. So the way we track the detection is we use a collision. We have something that we detect collisions. But when it comes to scoring and recording this kind of information, it's very similar to any other programming. So you can use a database or a file structure to store this information, or you can use, if you are using the Corona Cloud, all you do is you submit the score to us. So you'd go to, and we'll walk through the portal. You go to the Corona Cloud, you say new leaderboard, and then there's some configuration that you need to do, and then when the player scores, you just say submit score. That's it. So we will handle everything for you. You just give us the score, and then we will record that particular score with that particular user, and then you can pull down the scores, see who are the top scorers, and stuff like this.
And
So
that's if we're using the cloud.
yeah. Otherwise, it'll be normal. It'll be the standard how you would develop if you're doing native into file structure or a database. But I think you're gonna demonstrate the collisions, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I've created sort of a stack of blocks on the right, and hopefully I should be able to smash them if I. So, again, essentially I've just created a number of physics bodies, stacked them on top of each other, and because they're both dynamic, they kind of react to each other. So one of the things that specifically related to events is that every object, if it's a physics object, will fire an event on collision. So that's what you want to listen to if you want to reward points for hitting things. So then it's just as simple as creating another function, which basically increments the score and saves it to a database. And then whenever that collision event is fired, then you can do something. But typically you'd have it tied to a number of things. So when the collision event happens, say a rocket hits a plane or something, then you'll run the animation for the explosion, then you'll run an animation for showing the points flying out of the thing, and then you'll basically save it to the database. So one thing which it's kind of it's kind of overkill at the moment, but Corona has many APIs for many things. So some of the high-level things are we support a bunch of ad networks built in. So if you want to monetize through apps, you can just basically do 2 or 3 lines of calls, and we can display banner ads or interstitial ads. We do analytics, audio, cryptography. If you do secure connections, there's an easing library. We do Facebook integration. We do Twitter integration. We do Game Center on iOS. We do a lot of JSON stuff. We do file system. We have math libraries, network. If you want to store stuff in a database, if you want to track points over time, we have integrated support for SQLite. So it'll actually bundle the whole binary in there, and you can just increment it and store tables, run queries, that kind of stuff.
And is this this is a bunch of documentation, and this is available for the public?
Yeah, this is publicly available. So if you actually go to this, you'll see exactly what I'm saying.
What is it?
Docs.
It's docs.coronalabs.com.
Yeah.
What?
If you just go to docs.coronalabs.com, it'll go to the right place. So actually, if you go to coronalabs.com and you go to resources, here you can see there are SDK APIs at the top. And then there's other stuff for different things. But one thing, again, included in the bundle is over 60 or 70 sample apps showing every single API. So if you want to take a photo and then save it or post it onto Facebook, there's a sample app that shows you how to take a photo, and there's a sample app that shows you how to put it on Facebook. So you can basically see the exact code required to do that. And there's also lots and lots of information on the website in terms of guides and tutorials, and also on the forum. You can basically ask people, and people are very willing to help.
And also on the blogs, if you keep track on the blogs, because the team does every week tutorials on specific technology. Click on the blog side. You'll see, for example, they show you how to do performance optimization, and there's line-by-line sort of code examples.
Yeah. So this week's blog post was about updating your game content live. So basically, you want to change something or push some new content. So this is a regular thing. Here's where I took the tanks. It's a regular thing. So we're constantly adding new information, telling people how to do certain things. There's also FAQs where people can discuss specific topics. You can also provide feedback into Corona. There's a section, is it feedback? So if there are particular features that you want that we don't currently support, you can go to feedback.coronalabs.com and vote for the feature if somebody has already mentioned it, or if nobody's mentioned it before, you can just write it up. And we monitor this frequently. We watch it like hawks so that we can try to steer the development of our tool towards what people want. So, yep. Okay, so I'll just give you guys a quick tour of Corona Cloud, which is the new product. So essentially what we've done is we've taken all of the server-side functionality that a typical app developer or mobile developer would want. So things like push notification, user authentication, Facebook integration, multiplayer, analytics, achievements, leaderboards, all that kind of stuff. And we've rolled it up into one super easy to use portal. And basically, because we use a REST API, although we are part of Corona now, and we have very tight integration with the Corona SDK, it's still open for use by anyone. So if you're coding natively and you want this functionality, which is understandable, then you can just go ahead and use it directly through the REST API. The upside of that is also that if you're coding with Corona and you have an iOS game and an Android game, they can play each other seamlessly. And actually, they can play each other as well as people on Facebook or people on Windows Phone or pretty much any platform. As long as you can make web requests, then you can use the Corona Cloud. So I'll just quickly run through it. So basically, you can come in and enter in your Facebook app details and your Twitter app details, and we will use those to post on your behalf. So previous systems have kind of hijacked your posting. So if you post through them, it'll like OpenFaint. It used to say posted by OpenFaint. So here, we actually brand it as your own. So through push notification, you can specify your GCM settings for Android, or Apple, you can upload your certificates, or you can enable HTTP. So if you have a Facebook app or some kind of web service, we will actually create an HTTP post to your service.
One thing which is not on there is actually the Windows Phone from mobile. It's actually supported, but to be quite honest, there's nothing that we can show you.
Yeah. There's no real setup required for Windows Phone. You basically upload the device details using the API, and then you can just post to it, and it will send push notifications. It's by far the easiest to use.
But the way you would interact with Corona Labs is when you register the device, you will tell us that this is a Windows Phone device, and then from then on, let's say you have a Windows Phone device playing against an Android device. When you want to submit a move, we will actually use the right push notification that you need. But as far as your development, you don't do anything. You just say submit move, and we will actually handle the rest.
Yeah, so we basically track all the users and how to reach them, and we figure out the way to get there. So on leaderboards, you can create as many leaderboards as you want. You can specify the ordering, and then basically once you create a leaderboard, using our REST API or our SDK, you can submit a score, and we will automatically do all the logic, only replacing it when there's a higher score and that kind of stuff. With achievements, we support two types. We support the standard one where you unlock it and then it's yours forever. And we also support progress-based ones. So basically, if you need to destroy 50 ships in order to get the captain medal, and you've only destroyed 10, then you've worked towards your, you've committed progress, you've carried out some progress towards it. So we will track that as well. So if you make a request, we'll show you that you're, on your way to unlocking that achievement. We also support news, which is kind of a channel for developers to talk to their end users. If you're about to launch a new update or some kind of new interesting thing about your company, then you can create a news article, and it will send a push message to all your users saying there's a new news article. And basically, through the client, you can tell whether users have read it, and you can say, only show me the unread articles, or put a little badge for unread articles, stuff like that.
One thing that Ali went, but he didn't comment on, is when you looked at the push, there was one where you can actually input your own content, where when you register a device or a user for push, you can actually set them to a channel. So for example, I can have, this is a French-speaking in, I don't know, Nigeria. I don't know why I came up with that. So you can actually go, and the minute that's done dynamically, so you can actually create these channels dynamically on the device. These will get populated onto the portal. So you can actually visit the portal, and then you'll see all the channels, and you can select the channels you want, put in the content, and optionally you can add a payload, which your app can actually translate, consume, and behave. Or you can just, you don't have to use it. And then you can actually, and then it will actually broadcast to everybody within that channel.
Aside from the sending push messages from the portal, we do have an API for that as well. So if you have an external system that you want to programmatically send push messages, you can use that. And also, on top of that, we handle a lot of the push intelligence automatically. So if you set up a multiplayer game, then we will automatically realize that, okay, you want to send push messages when somebody's played his turn. So you don't need to explicitly handle that. We just take care of it. Okay. So in terms of multiplayer, we support turn-based as well as real-time. So with turn-based, we force a gated mechanism. So if you have 4 players, it'll be player 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then back to 1. But if you set it to real-time, then we basically allow any player to submit a move at any time. So you can think of it more as almost like a card game. If you're playing poker, then the turns are timed rather than having one person then the other. And again, here we handle all the push notification. We handle invites, accepting the invite, rejecting the invite, the friend matching, random opponents. So you can just request a random opponent, and we will check, for somebody else who's interested in it, and we will match you to and create a match for you.
And the cool thing is with multiplayer, you could be, let's say, you've set it to turn-based, and now it's rotated, so it's me, Ali, and then somebody else. Let's say it will not allow anybody to play out a turn. You can actually come to the portal, click real time, click submit, automatically, on the spot. It becomes, that means you can decide whose turn it is, and this is all live, happens on the spot. The cool thing is, this was actually all designed and developed here in the region. So this is something that's pretty cool for us, that we can actually develop and then get intention of a Silicon Valley-based company to look at this. I mean, there's nothing, we don't use any other libraries. Every single thing you see running on the Corona Cloud was developed from scratch by Ali and his technical team. So. And the last one is the analytics, which I think is a unique thing that we have. And by the way, you can go onto the internet today, and you have till 22nd when we head back to come and tell me if you find another product that can compete with us, and I'll give you 3 months free license to the Pro subscription. But I'll give anybody free runs. Anyways, I'll give you. But I'm just saying, I'll give you something really cool. If you can find a product, one product that can achieve what Corona Cloud could do. And let me tell you something. Corona Cloud was started November 2011, and we were acquired December 2012. So still, from December till now, we have about 4 months. Go find me a company, any company, including Apple or Xbox, that can achieve what we could do.
I'll just qualify that in terms of multi-platform as well as the feature set.
Yeah. What do we do?
Yeah. So with analytics, one thing which we have quite a big advantage over other people is that because if you use our system, if you use our Corona Cloud for leaderboards and achievements and multiplayer, then we have access to tons of information for you. So we can automatically give you the number of moves submitted. If you use something like Game Center, Game Center has multiplayer, but they don't provide any analytics on this. Even if you use something like Flurry, then you explicitly have to create it on the client side, and you can't really see what's going on the server side. So in our case, because it's fully integrated, we have direct access to this, and we can give you sort of rich details on exactly what's going on. So I can just bring up, move submitted. And
so the idea here, when we came up with this, is that when you're developing a game, you're integrating multiple SDKs, but these SDKs are from different companies using different technologies, and they don't necessarily talk nice to each other. So Urban Airship doesn't have to tell Flurry what kind of analytics, so how many push notification you've sent, or whether you're using parse or any other data. They don't actually have to feed into your analytics engine. Plus, as far as you're concerned, you're only given information that is open by the SDK developers. Whereas for us, because since under one umbrella, we can actually pull all this information across the different facilities and features, and then you'll be able to correlate. So you can actually say, for example, what is the longest multiplayer match? Oh, I've been given the signal? All right. Anyways, it's really cool. But if I didn't get a chance to describe more. Yeah. And if you're interested, please come and find me, and I will arrange for 3 months pro subscription, which will give you development for both Android and so all the Androids, Kindle and iOS.
And Microsoft by default?
No, only for the cloud stuff, but not for the SDK, unfortunately.
So who wants to develop games now? Okay, that's good. That's good.
By the way, one last thing. There's actually a school in the Bay Area run by 14-year-olds teaching other 14-year-olds. Okay? The #1 game that achieved is done by 11. This stuff is really, really easy. If you put your mind to it and spend some time to learn Lua, I guarantee you in a matter of no time you'll be developing some amazing stuff. So it's definitely worth a shot.